failure is seen as a terminal thing, because actually there's a lot of very jealous and incapable, and I say incapable people out there that love to see people fail. We hired the wrong people at first and spent £1 million that we then ripped up and had to start again. I've been speaking to Foxtons and LSL and actually Michael Bruce at Purple Bricks, One Dome, a whole bunch of other people that I've never mentioned before, by the way, Johnny. You're getting all this exclusively. This is another exclusive, by the way, Johnny. There's loads of stuff in here, I've never told anybody this, by the way. I don't know if I should tell you this. If I was under an NDA, it's definitely expired now. Here's another exclusive. This is about exclusive number 6, Johnny. Well, whose fault's that? Stop bloody moaning about it and do something about it.
Is it? Okay, cool. So, I mean, let's take it back to 2010 when you started emoov. Did you, I mean, it sounds like you're ambitious throughout your career. Did you think that it would become what it became, or did you have any intentions, or, how did it start out? You said you was in your room. I know that it was your wife that helped you out to start with. It's good to see the sort of, I guess, the struggles and, some of the stuff you went through at the start. What was that like?
So look, at first, so emoov was an idea that I felt passionate about, as in commoditizing estate agency, and that, becoming a better solution for the consumer. I definitely thought that it would be a big thing. It was the Purple Bricks launch that probably made me realise that it could be even bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
I always thought it would be a big thing, and that it would have a decent market share and so on. But if I'm really honest, when I started emoov at the end of 2009, we were still in the depths of a really horrible financial crisis, and the property market was in trouble. Banks weren't lending any money either to consumers or to businesses. I'd struggled to keep my part of the Quirk Deakin business afloat, but had managed to. But I'd gone back to the floor, so I was back valuing properties and basically had almost no staff left. And when I sold that business, the Gray's business, it was, although I had a little bit of money, and I mean 30 or 40 grand, not millions, that was everything I had, and I put that into emoov. But there was an element of desperation, if I'm honest, because as we were saying before you click record, some of us that have been in business for a little while, we're not going to go and work for somebody very readily. Never say never, but it's more unlikely I'm going to go and kind of be employed by somebody.
I mean, I think it's the other way around.
I had to go do my own thing, and
I was going to say, I'm not sure. I'm not sure people would employ you.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. So, October 2009 is when my twins were born, and my daughter at the time was only 15 months old. So in other words, we had 3 daughters under the age of 2. And a month later, I launched emoov, which was really quite insane when you think about it. But I had to do something. I wanted to move quickly, and I was passionate about this model and this concept. But also I had to start earning money. And I don't think I've ever told anybody this, but I started emoov. emoov started very slowly. It took 12 months for the thing to get any traction, because, of course, I was doing a little bit of Google AdWords, a lot of PR. I was doing, trying to really turbocharge SEO. SEO is kind of, to me, the key, really, to a business doing very, very, very well long term, because ultimately then your search kudos becomes free. So I was doing that, but there was no income. I couldn't take any money out of it because it wasn't making enough. So I had to simultaneously, so bearing in mind we've got the 3 kids, emoov started, I was a councillor, so I was an elected member of Brentwood Borough Council, and had just finished being planning chairman, I think, at that point.
Right.
So quite busy. I then had to set up a separate estate agency business in Brentwood called Russell Quirk & Co., which, funnily enough, go then full circle, 11 years, is almost the mirror of what the Keller Williams model is, which I've now invested in Brentwood with Mark and Claire Reddings running it. So I'm doing traditional estate agency, going out, listing homes, getting a full fee. And people will say, oh, you're a bit of a hypocrite because you're doing the emoov thing and also taking a full fee on some of your Brentwood stuff. Yeah, I was, but I've never said that online agency was the only option that the consumer should ever have. So, I was dealing with, £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 fees in Brentwood at the same time as building emoov, knowing that as emoov got off the ground, I would drop the Russell Quirk and Co traditional estate agency, which is exactly what I did. So it was pretty horrendous. I mean, I would be out doing viewing on homes. I'd be doing a viewing. I'd have a load of. Oh, sorry, there's a bit of noise. There's the ice cream van has turned up.
Working from home.
Hear it.
Yeah,
Sorry about that. It's working from home with my door open. And now the dog's going to disappear because he likes ice cream.
Start by. Oh, there we are.
There we go. Yeah. So look, it was. I would often be sitting on the curb, having just done a viewing or evaluation in Brentwood, and be taking a call from the emoov website, signing someone up that was going to pay 695 quid or whatever to sign up for the whole emoov thing. So, 2009, 10, 11 was very, very stressful. Having gone through 2008 and 9, which was also stressful in the Quirk business because the market was so terrible. So it was a tough few years, to be honest.
It sounds it. But I guess things started picking up, and then I said in the email that I sent across, it'd be good to know some of the firsts that you had. When you go through, I don't know if other business owners do it, and I don't know if you did, but when you hit a certain milestone, or you have a certain amount of customers, were there many that come to mind?
Yeah, no, there was. So the first milestone was employing my first person, which was Lauren Rutherford, who now works for Anthony. Just an absolutely amazing individual. Obviously, Lauren. She started in the business in March 2011. So that was about 16 months after I started. It took me to that point. I was at that point at about 20 listings a month. 500 or 600 quid a time. So it was just about. It wasn't quite breaking even, but we started to do okay. And then not long after that, we moved into slightly bigger premises. That was another milestone, and employed a couple more people. And it was at that point, so this is the end of 2011, so this is 2 years on, we got to the significant milestone of listing 100 properties a month. And I remember it well because that's the point where we started to make profit as an online agent. So hold that thought. We made profit as an online agent. Most people think online agents never made any money. No. We made profit. And in fact, I'll tell you who else did. House Network. House Network made profit. We made profit. I don't think anybody else ever did. But at that point in time, it's almost like they knew. Rightmove then contacted us and said, we've been charging you per branch, and you're one branch, and therefore it's been 700 quid for the last couple of years. Well, we're now going to charge you for a certain number of properties that you've got as a batch. And basically, I think the first time they changed their charging model, they charged us for 8 branches at 700 and odd quid a time. So we went from paying 700 to 6 grand overnight, and that wiped out the profit.
I guess that's one of the things, and it's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Obviously, you are, you're seen as a market leader, or I'll put it as here. You're very well known out there, and if you make yourself vocal about what you do, sometimes it can bite you in the arse. Which, I don't know if you put it out there that you'd now hit 100 listings a month, but then some people come in and try and charge you more. What were some of the other negatives? Did you have any other negatives or any other positives of being so vocal?
No, not really. I mean, getting stick by that time had kind of been pretty standard. The real negative came a bit later. I don't want to kind of jump all over your agenda, your schedule.
No, it's good.
We got to the stage, or I got to the stage, bear in mind, it was just me on my own. And by that time, I think I had 5 or 6 people working with me in Brentwood. And way before we knew about what was happening with Purple Bricks, I was the first one in the sector that went out to raise money. So nobody else had raised money. Purple Brick didn't exist. House Simple were just kind of trundling along. We were all very similar. You had kind of House Network, Hatched, House Simple, us, 1 or 2 others. And we were all doing, 100, 120, 150 properties a month, maybe got up to 200, I think, at one point. Sorry, the dog's back. And it was kind of all right. And I had this realization. I thought, if this is going to go somewhere, I need to accelerate it. I've got to boost it. And the only way to do that really is to raise money. And I'd started talking to some people I knew about equity fundraising and the world of kind of venture capital, which I knew nothing about at all. This is, as I say, late 2012, 2013, I guess.
Yeah.
Until, long story short, I came across James Kahn and his kind of right-hand man, Faisal Butt. Eventually, after many, many months of wrangling and negotiating and admin and due diligence, did a deal with them, and that was quite interesting because the deal that we did, where we raised £500,000 at a valuation, I think, of about £1.5 million, which is that was another big milestone, actually, raising a big amount of money. What actually that led to was, it was the kind of, I suppose you'd almost call it, I was going to be kind of call it a hamster wheel, but it's more like crack cocaine. Not that I'm an official of such things, but you raise money, you spend it to grow, because your profit line, your horizon is a bit into the distance. You then need to raise again and raising it. So I then fell into this thing where, particularly then when Purple Bricks a year or so later launched, and they raised money, then they raised again, then House Simple raised, then House Network raised, then Hatch raised. All of a sudden you've got these ferrets in a sack all fighting each other and fighting for investment cash. So often I'd go to see people about raising £5 million Series A, 10 million quid Series B, or whatever you want to call it that. And those investors had already seen House Simple and House Network, and vice versa. And that was a very busy and very distracting time for me. Bear in mind, I didn't have a CEO, I didn't have a co-founder, I didn't have a partner. So that was, back to your question, sorry, long answer again, is the negative then was I spent probably from 2013 to the end of emoov, I probably spent half my entire time raising money. So we raised 29 million in venture capital, crowdfunding, and private equity money over 9 rounds. So I had to raise 9 times. And for those that have never done it, you have to go out and talk to 30, 40, 50 people to raise money from 5 of them. Then you spend a month or 2 doing the due diligence, the legal work, and so on. It's a 6-month process. So basically, I was raising money for a few months, stopping. I'd have maybe a month to breathe, and then back straight out again raising money. And at the same time, I'm trying to run the business, hire, think about strategy and vision, what we're doing about technology, what are our competitors doing, running board meetings. It was pressured, and I was going to say stressful. I don't tend to display stress. I probably do. But I don't feel it. But I definitely felt the pressure because I had all of these competing things to do. And shareholders, some of whom were fantastic. So 1 or 2 of my shareholders, like Simon Murdoch at episode 1, brilliant guy, very supportive, very straight, very clever and creative and wise. Some not so much, but his shareholders then push and push. They want to get bigger. They want to see revenue growth of X% per month. And you just kind of, you don't lose control, but you get swept away. And for some that do it right, like Michael and Kenny Bruce did, because they had a plan based on watching the industry for probably 2 or 3 years and then thinking, right, we'll do that, that, and that. We won't do that. They had backers lined up that had deep pockets that could keep giving the money rather than going out and raising from new people all the time. So if you do it right, you end up taking 20 or 30 million quid off the table. You then leave the business and you go again, which is what the Bruces are doing. But for most of us, in fact, for every other online agent, Yopa, House Network, House Simple, Easy Property, that hasn't happened and won't happen.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was in the office, we always used to have people walk around, and always had to chat to them, see what we're doing. And I can imagine how. I mean, I only saw it from my side. I was doing my job and I asked a few questions and answering them. And I always see you a little bit, maybe, I don't know if it was on edge a little bit, just had to make sure that I was saying the right thing in my suit and my tie. But no, and that's what I'm saying. It was so nice to see it from my start of my career. I think it's going to lead me on a good direction. But a lot of growing a company that size, I can imagine you learn a lot, and there's a lot of business lessons to learn. Sometimes that might get overshadowed by people saying that it is a failure and you weren't successful. But if you look at the numbers, as we were talking about before, the amount of people that you employed, the amount of money that you raised, the revenue, everything like that. I'd say that it was a very successful company. And I just wanted to see what sort of, I guess, lessons you learned along the way that could be useful for people that are trying to grow a company of that size. You mentioned just then about the investment. Was there anything else that you think is key to running that after running it yourself?
Yeah, I think going too fast is definitely something that I wouldn't want to do again. Trying to compete with 4 or 5 competitors that were all raising and growing and trying to be part of that and fighting for number 2 position. with a view to having an exit. Because by the way, the whole emoov thing, I was passionate about the fact that it would work, but the end game was always about an exit. So whether that was selling it to Foxtons, or whether that was going to be a trade sale to somebody else, or a private equity firm coming in and taking 60%, or a listing on the stock exchange, which is what I tried to pull off at the end of 2018, which I wasn't able to. Yeah. But taking that investment cash, you do definitely lose a bit of focus. You end up with lots and lots of competing individuals on the investment side that are all kind of pushing and scurrying around, getting you to do things their way. Yeah. So I wouldn't seek to go too fast, because actually what you also end up with is you throw money down the marketing funnel and waste a lot of it, because you're constantly pushing to increase and improve and grow and test and so on, and you lose phenomenal amounts of money that you give to Facebook and Google and TV companies. But I think apart from that, what I didn't have is I didn't have anybody really close around me. So I didn't have any business partners. I had investors, and I had a chief marketing officer and a chief technology officer, Ivan, who was kind of my co-founder later on. But it's not the same as starting a business yourself. So in propaganda PR, it's James and I, and now Alex, who's the head of research, that is very much a part of the senior team. That dynamic of having a co-founder that you can lean on and bounce off, where you're not feeling like you're on your own, but also where you genuinely have different skill sets. So I can't do what James does. James can't do what I do. And that's brilliant, right? Yeah. Because it means we both know each other. And it works perfectly well. And so we plugged in Dr. Alex Perickley, who's our head of research, and I definitely couldn't do what he does, because he's a proper brain box. And with Keller Williams, exactly the same thing. I put the team together effectively right at the beginning, although Mark and Claire Reddings have done the work since. But having Mark Reddings as a partner now, X-House Network, Claire Reddings, both as the kind of the two most senior people in that Keller Williams Plus business, with then my cousin Anthony as a shareholder and one or two others that we brought in more recently. That dynamic, that support, and that camaraderie, and those different specialisms is what I really wish I'd done at emoov. And it's all very well in hindsight, but if Graham Locke, Mark Reddings, and myself had started an online estate agency back in 2005, 6, 7, and raised probably more money quicker, but in fewer rounds, in other words, raised 10 million, then 10 million, then 10 million, we would have listed first, and we'd be very, very well off. But that's all very well to say that, because a lot of that is based on what Purplebricks then came and did off their own backs, and congratulations and credit to Kenny and Michael for pulling that off. So look, I would definitely not raise as much money, not go as quickly. I would definitely have partners, and good partners. And I don't know, what else would I do? What else have I learned?
I wanted to touch on what you said about tech as well. I know that obviously you built the tech platform within emoov. I think I've heard you say that you could have maybe done it for a bit cheaper before. Is there anything that you'd say in terms of sort of making your own tech or anything like that?
Yeah, no, we could, but again, it's all very well in hindsight, because part of building tech from scratch is you make lots of mistakes. I mean, we hired the wrong people at first and spent £1 million that we then ripped up and had to start again back in 2013, 14. Yeah. It wasn't until Ivan came along, actually, that we started to get the tech absolutely right, because he's a really consummate, experienced, bang on product guy, chief product officer. So another regret is we nearly did a deal with LSL actually in 2016, 17. Steve Richmond, who's the chief operating officer at LSL, and I agreed a deal where LSL would pilot our technology platform within the LSL business. I've never told anybody this, by the way. But I don't think I'm under, if I was under an NDA, it's definitely expired now. No, but to Steve Richmond's credit, he looked at it and said, we need this at LSL, because we've got 12 brands and we've kind of smashed them all together, and there's a bit of sticky tape and a bit of Bostik in the middle trying to hold the technology together. We need one platform for all of our brands. So I did a deal with them, which the board of LSL actually signed off. When I took it to my board, they wouldn't sign it off. And it's a real regret, because I'd love to have become a technology business, as in a SaaS company that sold a technology platform to the industry. Yeah. Because I think that Reapit, I don't think is an up-to-date platform. I don't think most of the technology I see in a estate agency is very good by today's standards.
Right.
And if that had worked, that LSL deal, we probably eventually would have pivoted emoov to become a software business.
Sure.
But my board didn't want to do it, and I understand why they didn't. They didn't because they wanted to focus on the business they'd invested in.
Yeah.
My argument at the time was often businesses morph and pivot into different things. Like AWS came out of Amazon, like PayPal was never supposed to be payment provider, it was supposed to be a bank.
Yeah. Google Ads.
Yeah, a whole bunch of things have started off as one thing and ended up at another. And there's no shame at all in a pivot. I think it's a really clever, wise, agile thing to do. But the board didn't want. So that's a big regret, because I think that the technology, I mean, Mashroom, was it Mashroom? Yeah, Mashroom bought it for about 300 grand. I don't quite think they know what they bought.
Really? Oh. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I know that when we were going through it, it was. I mean, back then I was like 18, 19, so I didn't know what was good or what was not. But I mean, from my experience with it, it was pretty good for a system. I haven't seen other systems out there, but I'm sure that you know your stuff on that.
In brief, it was a very solid, very user-friendly, modern platform, but also that allowed a certain element of self-service from buyers and sellers. So the boring bits of the estate agency process we automated. So things like viewing follow-ups and ID and booking viewings even. But then we left people to do the really important stuff, which, as you remember, was sales progression, chain checking, buyer qualification, offer negotiation, and so on. So it was that blend of people and technology. And look, nobody's nailed that since. I don't think they will for many, many years, because the industry didn't get to see that technology, did it? It was only seen by you and probably 80, 90 other people in the emoov organisation.